Okay, today we're going to talk about elements of weather, and this particular lesson is more about how we measure weather or parts of how we measure parts of weather than the actual elements themselves. So we're going to be taking a look at temperature, humidity, precipitation, air pressure, and wind and visibility. Oops. So when we take a look at one of the bigger influences is temperature. Temperature is measured by a thermometer, and there are many different kinds of thermometers out there. There are electric, there are mercury, there's oil, like you may have one in your car that's going to be an electric. Our temperature is measured in one of two units. For the metric unit, it's Celsius or centigrade. And it comes from Andre Celsius from Norway. And the unique thing about his is he took water freezes at 0 and water boils at 100 and broke it up into 100 different units or different parts. So each degree of Celsius is 1/100th of the distance between freezing and boiling of water. Our standard unit is in Fahrenheit, comes from Daniel Fahrenheit from Germany, and his was a little different. His 0 was the coldest that he could get an object. So back in the day, the coldest that you could get something is if you took ice and added salt. If you took equal parts ice and equal parts salt, the salt lowers the freezing point so that you could get it colder. So he took and said, you know what, this is 0 because that's as cold as I could get. And the opposite of the coldest I can get is the hottest I can get, which would be boiling. So that would be 180 degrees difference. So he saw it as being the opposite or an opposite direction. And then there's Lord Kelvin, and he took and had the Kelvin system. It's not considered a degree, but what it does is it takes the Celsius unit for the most part and drops it down to the lowest point as being absolute 0. So the Kelvin system has no negative numbers, which is a positive, but we don't use it in weather. I just wanted to point out there that there is a third unit. So humidity is the amount of water vapor in the air, whereas relative humidity is how much moisture is in the air compared to how much it can hold. The higher the temperature, the more moisture it can hold. The colder the temperature, the less it can hold. So if it's 0 degrees out, you can have 100% relative humidity, but it's not very humid. If you have 70% humidity and it's 80 degrees out, there's a lot more moisture in the air. So the relative humidity is measured in percentage, and when the air has all that it can hold, it is said to be saturated or 100%. And you use a cyclometer or a hygrometer. So a cyclometer is something that looks like this, and it is going to spin. Here's an expensive one, and here's a cheap one, and even the cheap ones are expensive. And then we have hygrometers. A hygrometer does the same thing, but it just kind of hangs on the wall. And we'll be doing a lab, and I will be showing you this in future days. Or actually, we won't be doing a lab. I'll be doing a video, and you'll be taking the information from that. The dew point is the temperature at which liquid vapor turns into liquid water, and that is the dew point. That dew point is when dew will form, or fog will form, or clouds will form, and we'll be talking a whole lot more about that in the future. And when we take a look at this, is just kind of showing you that we're talking about evaporation. And the weird thing is when we take a look at humidity, we think that we only have water evaporating off from us, but we also have water condensing on us. So the warmer the temperature is, the higher the dew point, the more likelihood that we have water evaporating from us that takes energy away, but we also have water condensing on us, and that puts the energy back into our body. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later. Precipitation, not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Rain is measured in a rain gauge, but there's sleet, hail, rain, snow, and there's other different types of precipitation. The more in depth of a class you have, the more different definitions you can have. Clouds. Clouds will be a predictor of weather to come. And I hope doing this online that I can still come across with the idea that if you can understand what type of clouds are in the air right now, that you might be able to predict what type of weather is to come. And once again, that is might. I'm not expecting you to be a meteorologist after my little weather unit. But if you can watch different clouds, that might help you with what's to come. Air pressure. Air pressure is measured by a barometer. There are different types of barometers. I thought I had pictures of them, but many of you have taken to my globe, and as the air pressure goes up, we have higher air pressure, that means the air is sinking, and that is pushing it down. As the air goes up, a low air pressure, that means this would go up. So when we take a look at weather in the future, we'll say weather low pressure is good, and low pressure is going to give us bad weather or not as nice weather, and high pressure will give us better weather. And the air pressure wasn't changing that fast. As I touch this, it warms up the bulb and it goes up. So I'm not changing the weather, and the weather's not changing that fast. But this is susceptible to air changes. So that's a barometer, measures air pressure. And there's lots of different types of barometers, and depending upon what you do is what it might be measured in. And I should have made a slide on that. In science, we're going to be talking about millibars. And if you're in aviation, like Mr. Brooks is aviation, you're going to be talking about inches of mercury. Same thing, just two different measurements. Wind is measured by an anemometer. And the direction is a wind vane or a wind sock. These are anemometers. This is a little handheld one, and this is one that you might see on a weather station. I have a weather station sitting on up on the roof of the school, and it has a little anemometer there. And if you drive by the Mayo Clinic, they have a big wind sock. That's really kind of cool at night because it's lit up so the helicopter pilots can see as they come in what direction the wind is out of. And visibility. Visibility is normally talked about when we have fog or how much snow we have. And sometimes you'll hear that it's like a quarter mile or a tenth of a mile or a half a mile. And the range is usually between 0 and 10 miles, with 10 miles being the absolute clearest. And I don't know as if you can honestly see 10 miles around here, but that's kind of the max a lot of times used. And where do we get this information? We have planes that are constantly flying, checking the air. We have ships out in the ocean. We have buoys that are constantly sending information, satellite information. We'll be spending some time taking a look at that. But hopefully this will help you with elements of the weather. Have a great day. Thanks.